Luxi, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm pretty good. How are you?
Good. Where are you?
I'm in my kitchen
Oh,
next to my plants. I
nice.
thought that would be a nice background.
It is
There,
beautiful.
there we
Have
go.
you been like attending to plants or having like more gardening kind of style things going on in this time?
Oh yeah, I've become a full-on plant lady for sure.
Favorite plants, just to know.
Oh, favorite plants?
Hmm.
I mean, I'm really enjoying this one right here. This is the pothos. Pothos? Is that how you? I don't know a lot about plants, so they keep dying and then I have to replace them. It's a whole thing, but it gives me something to do, so
I love
that's good
it.
for
Apparently,
sure.
psychology says too, like plants just like really just add a better atmosphere to your mental health
Yeah.
and to the world. So,
Yeah, definitely.
well, what a beautiful setting. I love the lights and everything.
Oh, thanks.
So excited to have you on board.
Yeah.
Of course, we wish we could have you in person, but this is really pretty fun and incredible too. And you've got a lot in store for us. And I want to get into, of course, your Love Infinity EP, which you just released. Um,
Sure.
I remember we talked about this separately, but you had almost postponed the release, and I wondered what kind of inspired you to then, put it out and give it to us in the world. I'm so glad you did, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I'm glad to hear that, and thanks so much for having me, by the way. But yeah, at first I was like, I don't know if this is the right time for me to put out new music or like what do I even do with this release? Because I had planned to kind of book a whole tour around it and really try and like push this one as like the good album or whatever. So that didn't really work out kind of how I had planned. But I decided to kind of the more I thought about it, the more postponing it didn't make sense either, and that I should really use it to try and do some good and to contribute something positive to our community instead. So I'm donating all the proceeds from this album to Love on Black Women. It's a local organization I just heard about actually through like a friend of a friend. But it just seemed like a really cool idea and a way to directly get money into women's pockets right here in our community. So that's why I picked that one specifically.
That's awesome. I like your choice, and I like your reasoning. I think it's really important, adding to the social change. And as we were just talking before with Lex, it's Milwaukee feels a little bit different than some of the other cities in that going strong every day. Have you been part of some of that, some of the protesting and things out there?
Yeah, actually, that week I was out a few times right before the album release, and maybe that was also contributing to my. I was very emotional during that time. It's been like a roller coaster, I think. But yeah, it was very moving just to go out there and just kind of try and be a helper in that situation. So like, watching the intersections and trying to stay on the outside edge and stuff like that. It was a little bit intense that I'm not used to that kind of a situation for sure. And I've been taking the pandemic very seriously, so it was a little bit shocking to go from like total isolation to being around like thousands of people. But I think it was really necessary and really important to be doing that. And I'm really hoping to see some change come from this time for sure.
Do you feel a little bit of change when you're out there?
Yeah, I mean, definitely just seeing everyone come together and, inside myself as well, just listening to everyone's stories and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, definitely. I think change has to come. I'm kind of an internal optimist as well, but I definitely see positive changes on the horizon. And a lot of things have already happened in our city that I'm feeling really optimistic about. So yeah, it's exciting
That's awesome. Well, it's so cool to hear that you've been able to have that balance, even being afraid of the pandemic, to kind of get
for
in
sure.
there and act. So, I want to talk about your new EP. It was written in part before the pandemic, but it was inspired
Yeah.
by the notion of breaking through a long period of loneliness and isolation, which is
Hmm.
perfectly timed for our new normal. So, what do you hope
Yeah.
listeners will gain from experiencing this release?
Yeah, definitely. It's been kind of weirdly synchronistic how this has all gone down, probably for a lot of people, but specifically for this EP, I had written it kind of at the end of last year, the beginning of this year, kind of after a year of like really deep thought and kind of like a depression from my personal heartbreaks and different issues I went through last year just on my own. And then I wanted to kind of take that feeling and then turn it into like dance songs. So it's not just like a depressing, heavy album. It's a little dark still, but I feel like I turned them into like a more upbeat kind of dance vibes, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, so they turned into songs kind of for the apocalypse, but then it kind of shifted to be like songs for the revolution. So it's not like the end of the world. This is actually the beginning of something new. So that's
I
kind of
I love that. There's a little cartoon I saw about that, a guy just holding like a sign that said, "This is the end," like that classic. And then some
yeah.
from the back,
Uh,
"This is the beginning."
yeah, no, totally. I think I saw that one too.
That's awesome.
That's
So
funny.
so speaking of like, this is all encompassing really. What has been your strategy for keeping creative and coping through these time, or are they like one and the same really?
Sure. It's kind of been a roller coaster. Sometimes I'm not feeling like super creative and I'm just kind of like I don't know what to do with myself. Like what do I do right now? But lately I've been kind of getting more into a creative vibe and kind of focusing more on like my online stuff, like my websites and kind of trying to get back into the groove of that stuff since obviously the shows are gone. So I'm kind of trying to like shift my focus a little bit. But music has always been like a therapeutic tool for me anyway. So it's always been kind of where I end up going when I need an outlet for something. So I've always been like painting or making songs whenever I have like something I need to get out of me is kind of like always always what I end up doing.
Well, and then I feel like this release has been like a super creative package because you have a digital zine, but you also have a video game experience
Yeah.
that goes along with it. So, and it's for Windows 10, right?
Hmm.
And so I just want to know if the video game is always paired with the music, and what is like the theme and thought behind this one?
Sure. Yeah. This is kind of a less traditional game like experience. I kind of call it like the anti-game game. Like it's not really a game. You kind of just enter through these surreal environments. And I had come up with this concept of like being stuck in a fish tank with these like weird plants and stuff growing and kind of just like a really surreal kind of spooky vibe, almost like scary. And but then it kind of evolved, and this was before the isolation, and then all of a sudden we're all in this isolation phase, and then the fish tank became like real, and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
So I made a way that you can catapult yourself out of the fish tank, and it kind of just it's kind of out there. But yeah, so it's kind of like an experimental kind of exploratory thing, if that makes sense. But then the zine, that was all photos taken by Sam Organi. He's a very talented photographer here. I'm sure we all have heard of him by now. But that was just a different way to kind of explore the lyrics. So I kind of took those photos and then just hand wrote all the lyrics over them. And I had meant to get it printed actually, but I ran out of time because I was protesting actually. So I decided to just put it out as a digital release. So, um, if that makes sense. Yeah, that's kind of what happened.
There other like pieces that we can look forward to on the Love Infinity release that have not yet been released?
Sure. Yeah, I actually have a music video, I think, for almost every song. I'm still editing one of them, so I'm not sure exactly when it's going to come out. It might be Friday. This is a terrible way to release things, by the way. You should really plan this out in advance. But I'm kind of like I have to just do it and put it out there. Um,
I
it's
think
probably not going to be. What day is it? It's Tuesday. That's too soon. Maybe next week, Friday.
fair enough.
There might be a music video.
But sometimes you can release things when you feel it. I totally get that.
Yeah, I feel like it doesn't really make a huge difference if you're not like trying to be on a label or something like that. If you're just, I'm kind of just doing it to do it, and whoever is with me, if that makes sense. So there's kind of like a handful of like fans or supporters, I guess I would call them more so, internet friends, who kind of keep an eye out for whenever these random things pop up.
So before we get into your level walkthrough, I wanted to ask you, how can people support you?
Sure. Yeah. I would definitely say you could check out my website. That is luxireally.com, LUXI really.com. And that kind of links to all my different stuff. So on that website, you can find like my Spotify and all the other things and whatever you kind of feel like. There's a YouTube channel. There's also my online shop. I have these new hats that I was going to take on tour with me. So I still have some left. But yeah, I'd say that's probably about it.
And just to, for those who don't, just as we get into the walkthrough of a level, for those people who don't know what that is, can you give a little context?
The level walkthrough?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. So this is going to be, I think I sent you Virtual Underworld. Yes. So this is the fourth song off the EP. It's kind of the more uh, like club vibe. Um, and there's a music video that's playing in the background, and you kind of just wander through the level, and you can find like a couple of drawings and stuff like that. And yeah, it's meant to be kind of more chill. So you just got to sit back and relax and watch it pass by, kind of.
That's awesome. Is there anything else you want our listeners to know before we move on and show them
Oh,
that awesome level?
oh, I don't know for sure. Just be a nice person. You know, I guess. Yep.
That's
Is this the end though? Thanks for having me. Okay.
yeah, thanks for being
Yeah.
here.
Thanks so much. But it was nice to see you again
You too.
for sure. Take care.
You too.